Good morning, Harry.
Good morning, Jason.
How are you, sir?
Doing great on a Monday morning.
Yeah, that's good. It's been a while since we saw each other. I do miss the connection and getting to see you guys and see you on a regular basis at your events. And I'm glad we could get together here virtually. How's the Zoom been for you?
Well, the Zoom's interesting. I've done a lot of them, and I'll do some more. I've got a firewood workshop where I have to do 2 days worth of video work
Oh, wow.
by
Wow.
June. By
You've
June.
really adapted it. You really adapted it quickly. I participated in a couple of those, and I was really impressed. You got on the ball really fast there. It's good. That's good. So this is Coffee with Quiz. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time, and I respect your opinion a lot. You've helped me a lot in this industry, and I would not, Quiz Machinery would not be where it is without Harry Watt's influence and advice and your role in the industry. I remember the day we met back at my old wood shop in the parking lot there, and I had little to know that we would have this relationship down the road. So thank you for taking the time to meet with us on Coffee with Quiz. So talk to me about your coffee. How do you take it?
A straight black. And you know why? It's because when you work in the factories, things crawl around at night. So if you just have the straight coffee, it's a better world.
I agree. I went black just so that I wouldn't have to ask anybody to do anything anything special. I didn't want to have to say, hey, two servings of this and a little bit of this. No, just this color. No, just black. And I taught myself how to drink it black a long time ago. So when was your first cup of coffee?
Back in the early 60s, I was born in 55. My family believed in instant coffee. So we had instant, you can have all the coffee you want, one spoonful at a time.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have four brothers, no sisters.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. I've never asked you that. So talk to me a little bit about your role at NC State, what you do, what you're spending your days doing these days. Talk to me about your job.
I'm what you call a wood product specialist. I work across the state. I'm not assigned in a county, so I work directly for the folks on campus. But I'm 100% grant money. I get grants mainly from the U.S. Forest Service. They have things they want to do, and I go out and interact with companies and individuals in forestry and wood products.
That's great. That's great. Harry, that's a pretty sounds like a pretty elaborate job. How'd you end up in that job?
Well, I was for a dozen years, I did engineering and management consulting for mostly furniture companies from 94 to 2005. And until 2001, my revenues went up every year. And after 2001, they went down every year. So 2005 was the time when I'd had to go do something else. And Elizabeth Dole, the senator, gave NC State a earmark funding to hire somebody to work with the furniture industry. And my buddies at NC State helped me out to apply for the job. I got the job, and they told me after that, you've got to fund yourself. So you have to go find grants. You got to write the grants. You got to get the grants. You got to do the grants. And that's what I've done. And I've had a pretty good run of it. I've had a couple times when they were hard to get, but other than that, right now they're easy to get, and I've got enough to last me for several years. That's
great. Congratulations on that. I know I've filled out a few reviews on your influence in the industry, and I can tell you, it's always a pleasure to do that and tell people how much you've helped our industry. And I know you have your history in it. Having worked in the industry, having worked on the floor, it gives you instant respect when you walk into these places, and then the way you've helped their colleagues and they've heard about it, they want to be a part of that. And your events that you put on, people look forward to those every year. So that's great. So I really appreciate your role there. So tell me what NC State's favorite word is.
It's got to be the howl, because we're the wolf pack. And the history on the Wolfpack is back in the 20s at a football game. NC State came from behind and won in the fourth quarter. And the fans were just just raising all kinds of hell up in the stands, and the opposing coach at the end of the game stuck his fist out and said, "You just a bunch of wolves." So they said, yeah, we're the Wolf Pack. So NC State got to be the Wolf Pack because of that football game.
That's a good nickname. That's a good nickname. That's a lot better than my school's nickname in terms of the history there. So that's good. It's good. What's your favorite word?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a history nut. So anything in history, I've been doing a lot of American Revolution stuff, and liberty was the word of the day, and like Washington said, liberty or death. You kind of, if it might not work out, but it did. So liberty's a good word.
That is a good word. That is a good word. So what does a great day look like for you now that you've got your grant funding?
Well, a great day for me is when I got a place to go and somebody to see and go look at something. It could be an opportunity, could be a problem, or just touch. Generally, when I go out, I don't see one person a day. I'll see 4 people in a day, and they might be in different projects. So for me, it's a day trip. Leave at 7, get back at 7, hit 4 people, and just see what's going on out in the world.
So that must have changed a lot over the last few years. I know the universities have been changing their wood's role from a central focus to just a portion of the manufacturing focus, right? Talk to me a little bit about where you see that, where it's gotten to, and where you see it going in the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, the university, interacts through, if you're a land grant college like NC State, Virginia Tech, Clemson, you have a role for extension, and that's supposed to link the industry to the college system. So that's where the extension staffs are located. Cornell's in New York, and they're all over the country, and each of them see their roles different ways. At NC State in '58, we started wood products extension as part of forestry extension, and it came into its own. And we've been interacting with the industry in the state since then. But since the '70s, it's been declining. Every couple of years we'll lose a position. So at NC State Wood Products Extension, we really have 3 people on staff, and I'm the satellite soft-funded one. There's 2 that have some faculty responsibilities. So it's nationwide. There's less emphasis on wood and paper and forestry as there was in the past. And it's not been a good thing for the industry, because our industry always valued any graduates that had wood experience were quickly picked up, and we were paid well, and it was easy to get a job. But over time, administrations change, and they have different ideas depending on where they come and where they want to go. And unfortunately, the wood products people did not get promoted into high places. So forestry and wood have been declining all across the country. And it's hard to find a place to get a wood degree today.
So I've heard some people say that was more about the students' lack of interest in the wood part. And I've heard some people say it was the students' lack of interest came from the lack of available classes, and kind of a chicken or egg kind of question. Do you have any feelings about how we've gotten to this point, like why that's occurred?
Yeah, I have lots of opinions on that one, because it's an administration problem. It wasn't a student problem. The problem was the administrators like to be on campus, and part of it just is due to the way academics are. We go to college because we're smart and we're interested in something, right? Well, what happens in forestry and wood a lot of times is you get academics that are smart and interested, but they don't have a lot of hands-on. They don't go out and run CNC machines, and they don't build furniture in their wood shop. They're academics. They want to read about things. It's like going to business school. I went to business school, got an MBA, had a lot of classes in econ and business. I probably had 40 classes, well, maybe say 20 or 30 classes in econ. And only one of them ever had a professor that actually worked in the industry. The rest of them they went to college and they were smart and they loved business, talking about business, but they've never been in business. And that's happened to us in forestry and wood. We unfortunately, the people that want to run machinery are out running machinery, and people that want to teach a little bit about that stay on campus.
What do you think's been the secret of success for you, for Harry Watt, in terms of the position you hold in the industry now? With my customers, I know they hold you in very high regard. Your events are very well attended, and your opinion is very well respected. What do you think's been the secret of success for you to get there?
Well, I think the fact that I've always stayed in forestry and wood. I started working at Bernhardt in 1976 in Troutman, North Carolina. I was the flunky in the finishing room, and we had a problem back then one day. And the assistant plant manager came by, and I said, "Sir, we got a problem back here." And he said, "Well, what's the problem?" And I explained it to him. I said, "I don't know the solution, but we got a problem." And so he comes back the next day and says, "Well, you're right. We got a problem here. Here's the solution. You implement it." And I said, "Yes, sir." And I was getting paid, let's see, $2.75 an hour. And I paid for myself for the whole summer by just that one thing. So I think it's the impact, the fact that if you get things right, it's a wonderful day. And if you screw up, everybody knows it, right? But there was 400 people working there. There was a plant manager, assistant plant manager, superintendent, supervisors, and all that. There was 60 people working in the finishing room, and none of them was going to fix this problem, right? It wasn't a problem for them, but it was a problem for me. I was the flunky that had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So if you're the one that feels the pain, maybe that's good motivation.
That is very good motivation. That's a very good one. What do you feel like the piece of technology that you think has impacted our industry, the wood industry, we'll just say the wood industry, the most? Because I'm sure a lot of technologies impacted the university, the academia side, but in terms of looking at manufacturing, you've been on both sides of it. So let's talk about the manufacturing. What piece of technology do you think has impacted our industry the most in the last 20 years?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways to go. Certainly the CNC routing, machining. When I started working back in 76, the biggest, baddest machine we had was kind of a tie between the molder and the double end tenor. And the double end tenor was really coming into its own back then. And for both of those machines, we had a standard setup time of an hour. So if you changed, and that's not a small change. I mean, if you just moved a head out, it wasn't a big deal. But if you had a complete breakdown and reset, it's an hour time was lost. So the quick setups, the small quantities we're running now is altogether different than we did in the old days. So that and the PC has allowed our owners and managers and anybody that's trying to figure things out a much better way to do a spreadsheet or to do some drafting. That's an important thing.
Write that down. Sorry, I had to write that down. An hour setup. So in the morning, so you're getting going.
Yeah, that was standard. I was an IE for a while, and we had our standard setups, and yeah, we had an hour setup. That's the way it was. That's why you had to have those long runs. We always argue we needed longer runs.
Yeah. So you mentioned a word I keep, the IE. You mentioned you were an IE. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because that's a position that I saw disappearing, and then now I'm starting to see it start to come back a little bit. It's in a different form, but there certainly are people doing that. And you want to talk a little bit about what an IE is and what it
yeah. Well, we had at NC State, we had the furniture management program, which is part of the engineering school. And the most important class they ever took was time study. And time study was absolutely the best job you could ever get if you were fresh out of college. It was actually better than supervision because it forced you to look at the methods and the time and relate the two. And if you really mastered time study, you knew how to run woodworking plants regardless what kind they were. And some of the furniture companies, if they were bigger, had IEs. Sperry and Hutchinson was a Fortune 500 company, and what they had later become Ladd Furniture, and they had a lot of IEs in their plants. And I went to work for Ladd back during that big bad recession of 81, 82 time period. And I told them, I said, don't hire me if you're going to lay me off in 6 months. I don't want to move out of state and you lay me off in 6 months. And they didn't. They laid me off in 7 months. But you went out in the plant and you were looking for improvements, because what happens is in a factory, the production people run the schedule. You give them a schedule, they run the schedule. They're not really looking for improvements. That's not their job. So when you took the IEs out of the plant, you took the improvement people out. And what happened then is the IEs, at least where I was, we would develop the time standards and we would cost the product. And when they laid all of us off, the marketing people started pricing the product based on what their competition was doing. So you could run a product in a plant and lose money on it because the marketing people was lowballing the price so they could sell more of it.
Sure.
So it's a downward spiral. When you take the improvement people out of the picture, it doesn't get any better.
There's been a ton of talk recently about the next question I was going to ask you had more to do with those KPIs, talking a little bit about that. I think that's a good transition to that. And then automation in the industry. We've seen, a ton of automation that's been added that didn't add any real value. We've seen lots of good machinery that people have no idea how good it is because there's no measurements being attached to it. When you feel like KPIs, key performance indicators, numbers that people pay attention to, when the plants that you walk into, what percentage of them do you feel like, if you graded them, let's look at it that way, 0 to 10, 0 being they're doing nothing, they're antiquated, they're back there, the 19, they're no IEs and no automation, no automated data collection, versus the 10 being somebody who's dialed in, automated, very maybe more aerospace industry kind of level manufacturing. But in the wood world, where do you feel like most of our customers are, most of our manufacturers in this area are, and do you feel like, and why do you think that is?
Well, I don't think we're very far along in our management. And one of the reasons I went to MBA school is I wanted to figure out how you make money in the wood business. And I finally figured it out, but I didn't learn it in MBA school. I learned it through the School of Hard Knocks, plus I'm an avid reader and I listen to books on tape and CDs and now YouTube videos, and I finally learned, what's the right way to make money. And of course, you start at the end, you start looking at the P&L, and then you figure out, well, what kind of schedule does it take to get a good P&L? So you got to go to the accounting people and get your numbers for labor, material, and overhead. And then you got to run fast. A buddy of mine, Doug Holman, up at Associated Hardwoods Lumber, was one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And he said, Harry, you can't make money in the wood business unless you're running wide open. So somehow you got to figure out the volume side of it, which is the top line, right? Because our total revenue is volume times selling price. So he had that part right. So I learned that from him, and I try to preach the gospel, start at the end. I mean, what do you want? You want to make a 10% profit, 15, 5, what's your number? Where are you now, where you want to be? What schedules it take to get it? Get the accounting people to give you the numbers. And I used to bid jobs. I worked as plant manager in a 100-person furniture plant, and I did the bidding because we were doing contracts for hotels. And what I would do is, when I also made the schedule, and I tried to make the schedule faster than what I bid, but I didn't tell anybody. I just did it. I gave the schedule. If I bid a job in 15 working days, I put a schedule at 14 or 13, but I just gave them the schedule and said, this is 13 or 14 days. We're starting this day. We're ended that day. Let's go. And we were making a higher profit than what I was bidding. And you do that by finishing early. And I go into so many plants, if a job drags and takes extra time, it doesn't bother anybody. It's like, where's the sense of urgency? It's like, and I'll give an example. I spent some time up at the Stanley plant up in Robbinsville, which was their last plant. and they did not have a sense of urgency. And I was chewing them out one day about it, and I don't normally, I never chew anybody out. I didn't get mad or nothing. I said, look, guys, you're the last, Lexington's not running, Stanleytown's not running. This is it. You gotta, there's certain things you got to do, and you can't have bottlenecks in packing. And they had a bottleneck in packing. I mean, come on, get real. You're supposed to be the elite core, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody can figure it out.
No, that's yeah, it's a battle, and there's, I walk into facilities all the time. I can think of one off the top of my head that just that said, we want this, and they would attend your events every year, and every year they would say, we want this automation, we want this, we want to do this. And when we would come down to the meeting, there was always one or two people who were like, well, this is the way we've always done it. And everything went through them. So unless they were on board, it wasn't happening. It didn't matter whose name was on the door. It didn't matter whose money was getting spent. It was, this is the way we've done it, and I'm not changing. And so, and literally 2 months before one of those people retired, they put the order in and everything was ready to go. They're like, we're ready. We want to show up. He retires. We're happy. We appreciate his help and his sacrifice, his contribution. But the week after he's gone, we want the machine delivered. I was like, okay, that sounds good. So it's been a growth. It's one of those great companies I have there. They're 2-year, 5-year, 10-year goals, and you get to help them grow. It's a lot of fun. So the labor skills gap is something that I'm a member of the WMIA. I'm on their tech committee. I'm the chair of their tech committee, and some other. The WMIA is the Woodworking Machinery Industry Association. I know you're familiar with them, and you participate at IWF, the trade show that we own, and then recently we finished up the Section 179. We were a big part of the Section 179 tax break, so they could depreciate the value of a capital expenditure, capital piece of equipment, day one, assuming it was installed and up and running within that calendar year. They could write it off for that calendar year. And now they've moved on to labor skills gap and just in education. And that's really, you've been talking about that for a while. I remember you getting involved in a couple of ideas. I know you've been involved with the upholstery school up there, up in Alexander County, and you've helped out with that type of stuff in terms of getting the word out and communication and publicizing that type of stuff, making it successful. Talk a little bit about what you see as far as labor skills gap, or the aging workforce in the wood industry, and there not being anybody really in that, mid 30s to mid 50s range to kind of take the realm, take the helm from those that are getting ready to retire.
Well, it's been a problem now. When I started back in the 70s, we still had those World War II guys that were born in the Depression, went through World War II, and they were anchors in the plant, and they valued security above everything else. So, they didn't get paid a lot of money. They never got told how great and wonderful they were. Nobody made sure that we had the executive quality lunchroom for everybody, But they're gone. I mean, they served out, they retired, and they moved on. And now we're kind of suffering that, what kind of quality we have. And we have a hit and miss quality. We've got some of the best people we've ever had. We just don't have enough of them. So it's, I think, a matter of the industry has to do like the Alexander County upholstery group. There's Craftmaster leading the way. There's Mitchell Gold and others that have jumped in to help. But they've created a training facility that has excellent upholstery sewing and upholstery production lines. And they teach the cutting edge of upholstery with the idea of generating employees for their plants. And all those, and they're adults and, high school age people. and they can go out and get good jobs. I mean, they're especially a lot of the upholstery jobs are production jobs, sewing jobs are production jobs, so that people can earn an above average wage for where they live in that. So we have to create our next round of employees, and so we have to get out to the high schools, the grade schools. I mean, some people say we need to be in the middle schools in order to get the attention early enough just to be on somebody's radar. We're invisible. You know, the kids drive down the road, they don't know who we are. The community colleges, we don't have really the technology for wood in the community colleges is a great example. There's 58 community colleges. I think every one of them has a high-tech center, right?
Mm-hmm.
And none of them have a woodworking machine in there, right?
Not a single.
How can that be, given how big the wood industry is in the state of North Carolina? And I understand, you know, certainly in Catawba County and Guilford County, Randolph, Davidson, these high wood counties, surely we could get at least something over there in the high-tech center involving wood. So, you know, that's something for us to do as a individually in a group. And certainly the companies that are involved in the Hickory, Alexander County and Guilford County, I think they call them furniture academies. The furniture academies, those companies are benefiting greatly with students coming out with knowledge that they can use on day one. And we just need to do more of that.
No, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I know we're working with a couple of them right now to try and get them. And I used to work in the medical world, and I know that one of the ways it's very difficult to get a surgeon to adapt to change. You know, he has something that's worked for him or her, and they're used to that success. And with the patient on the table, they don't want to risk changing. You know, this has always worked for me, I'm not going to change. And so it's very difficult to get them to open up to new ideas. You have to start at the learning centers if you want them to try something new. Now, there are situations where physicians, you know, will leave and do some studies and learn and that type of thing. I'm not saying they're completely against changing. They do keep up, but the real change starts to happen at those educational institutions. And so when I got into this industry, and I've always loved the wood industry, but when I started on this side of the wood industry, I realized that there was very little going on at even Harvard's got a great program, SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, RISD, some of these art and design schools and architecture, you know, architectural schools. Virginia Tech's got a great program. There are a few out there, but there's just not that many where they're really driving the use of wood. Clemson, I know they've got their wood utilization design group. They're pushing a lot, but still it's mostly in building, not so much in furniture. And it is something that we're going to need to address really soon, find some ways. And I'm glad to see some of the big corporate giants of the industry starting to help, you know, get involved in that and help make that change themselves. You know, it's good to see that. So let's talk a little bit about Harry Watt. What profession other than the one you're in would you like to attempt? Would you going back?
Well, I have an interest in agriculture. I grow Leland cypress trees in 1 gallon pots, and I sell them for $6. And I got a sign on the highway. So
That's
every
great.
couple of days, somebody will call me and come over and buy some trees. I enjoy doing the forestry and the trees. I've got 28 acres and I've planted just about all of it in trees. And I bought a sawmill last year and I still haven't got it up and running. I bid on, I have 2 cold presses out in my yard, including one that was once owned by the founder of Quiz Machinery.
Oh yeah, that's right. You sent me that.
I got a 1966 London, England cold press. You know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Those are great. Yeah, it's pretty fun to walk into a shop and see an old machine with the Quiz Machinery badge on it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's cool. So cypress trees, I didn't even know about that. That's very interesting.
Well, the Leland cypress are border trees. Usually the people that buy them, they just bought a house. And what I tell them is when you plant them, you're going to be happy and your neighbor's going to be happy too.
We're actually been looking at a few, so I might be calling you about that after this interview. We've got a brand new, it's an old house. It's a 70-year-old house, but we're fixing it up, and it's we need something like that, a natural fence. So, what historical figure do you most identify with?
Oh, you got to love Daniel Morgan, right? You know Daniel Morgan?
Not well, no.
Daniel Morgan was the most successful commander in the Revolution.
I knew a little bit there, but that's what makes you love him?
Well, he's famous. You know, he would get with his troops. He was very close to his troops. He made sure that the skilled people were on the right place in the battlefield, and there was a place for the less skilled and the people that just showed up the day before. He fought all the way up to Quebec, Canada. He was captured in the attack on Fort Cat up at Quebec. You know, he fought at Montreal, Quebec, Cowpens. He was a teamster. He was from the Shenandoah Valley. He had a horse and wagon, and he moved freight. So he definitely was a people person, and he figured things out.
Wow. I'll have to look that one up a little bit more. For some reason, I thought I got that one wrong. So I appreciate you sharing and enlightening me on that one. So thank you. What is your greatest extravagance?
Oh man, I am really a tightwad by nature. I don't spend a lot of money, but I've been buying some used woodworking machinery. I put a bid on something yesterday. I hit the reserve on an online auction.
Yeah.
The other day I bought a $25 clamp that with loading fees, taxes, and the buyer's premium, it's about $80 for the $25 press, you know.
Wow.
So I'm learning a little bit here about online auctions.
That's good. That's good. What did you bid on yesterday?
A cold press. That's my new thing.
No.
I'm making CLTs.
Yeah, I knew about that. Is it going well?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going real well. I'm figuring out how to do what the big boys don't do well. You know, you're if you're the new guy, you're looking at the niche and you want to go where other people aren't going.
Yeah, we've got a couple of modular guys that are doing a lot of the data on that right now. I'm sure they'd be very interested in hearing your report. They're looking at trying to make it work. I know the big thing for them right now is the shipping is shipping because they're used to shipping a box that's done. And when you weigh a wall with traditional wall of sheetrock and 2x4s, it's a little bit less than a CLT wall, and they're trying to figure out how to get it across all these bridges, and they can railroad it. They can railroad to some regard, but they're still going to need to drive it at some point, and it's getting it to that final location that's proving to be an interesting challenge. So they're working on that. Yeah, interesting. So I guess what talent would you most like to have?
Well, I'd like to swim better than I do. Last March I was in Cabo, Mexico, and my wife and I took the boat out to where you jumped out with your snorkels and see all the colored fishes, right? So we jump off the boat, and 200 people swim 400 yards in 5 minutes, and I'm paddling next to the boat, and the same length of time I'm still at the boat. I didn't go anywhere. So somewhere I need to figure out my swimming. I'm not close to drowning, but I'm just not going anywhere.
That's good. Well, I'm glad you're not drowning. That's the first step, right?
Yeah. My head's above water.
You got a passing grade at least. There you go. That's good. That's good. I learned to swim right down the road from you at the Statesville YMCA. I remember, I can't remember her name, but she just threw me in the water. My parents kind of took a deep breath, and she just kind of threw me in the water. And
that's Sandra Cathy?
Yes, that is exactly who it was. exactly who it was. Yeah, I swam. Later I would her um her son and daughter. That's right. Were my I swam with them growing up, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly who it was. Yeah. Um, so what fuels you creatively, Harry?
Well, I've always was on this improvement track. I mean, it's hard to believe, that I ever got anywhere in improvement, but I've always been interested in doing more with less, better, faster, cheaper. Let's do it smart. Use our head. Let's learn something. Let's count it as we go, so we can see if you do a good job figuring out your P&L and the schedule and how you're bidding, you figure out where you have to be. And it's a great relief to know that you're on track. If you need to build 100 dressers a day and there's 10 hours and you do 10 every hour, well, it's very comforting to know at the end of the day you're okay. I used to hate to hear the supervisors tell me, say, well, I don't understand how we're not making any money. We're running the schedule. Well, the schedule wasn't strong enough. Nobody was selling enough.
That's
We
right.
just took what we sold and spread it out, so everybody had something to do, but we ain't making any money. Well,
Yeah.
there's a reason for that.
Yeah. It's I've got a great person on my team. She really, Allie, you know Allie. She helps a lot with controlling that type of costing and where we're spending our money and she's great. I mean, I think at every level, every type of manufacturing, every type of business, it's what are you producing? Well, we're producing a customer, right? For manufacturers like C.R. Onsrud or James L. Taylor or Natterman. And then we're producing those customers for them and what's the relationship? How do we grow that? What are the key components to it? How do we put it together? How long does it take to build? That type of stuff, and controlling the costs around that, and while still providing the level of the quality product you want to provide, which is for us as a service to the customer. So it's good. So Harry, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I think just say the woodworkers, just take the path over here to the right. The woodworkers need their place in heaven too.
The wood shops to the right. That's what
Yeah,
you want to hear.
the wood shops to the right.
That's good. I like that. That's a really good one. That would be a nice shop. Maybe
Oh,
that would be a nice
I mean,
shop.
all the tools would be sharp, right? And all
That's
all the boards have got straight grain. It'd be
no
a great.
defects.
No
That's right.
defects. There you go.
No bows. No potato chip
There's
plywood.
there's no crook. There's no crook.
That's right. And that shop would definitely make money. There would definitely always be orders. So be good. That's good. Harry, it's been truly a pleasure getting to see the side of you and talk to you a little bit about this stuff and hearing your point of view. I can't tell you again how much I appreciate it. And over the years, I've been doing this 7.5 years now, almost 8 years now, and on this side of the industry, and a furniture maker before that. And I look back and I was really looking forward to this interview. So thank you. You didn't let me down.
You're welcome. Well, good luck to you and Quiz.
Thank you, Harry.